You think your thoughts belong to you. But what if I told you that almost every single negative thought in your head right now is an absolute lie? A lie programmed into you by a weak, overly sensitive society designed to keep you paralyzed. Most men walk around completely asleep, believing that anxiety, stress, and endless overthinking are just normal parts of the modern male experience. They are not. They are the symptoms of a mind that has surrendered its absolute power. Today we are breaking down 7 laws of elite mental dominance. 7 modern Stoic principles that will completely obliterate your negative thinking and forge an entirely unbreakable mind. This is not another history lesson about ancient times. This is a tactical masterclass on pure psychological superiority. Be warned, this knowledge is not for the fragile. 99% of men will click away because the truth is too heavy for them to carry. But if you are among the rare few who are truly ready to take complete control, drop a comment below saying, "I am ready," before we even begin. Look around you. We are living in an era where men are drowning in a terrifying ocean of noise. You are constantly bombarded by digital notifications, massive societal expectations, the toxic opinions of complete strangers, and a relentless cycle of manufactured outrage. The central problem modern men face is not a lack of physical comfort, but a total, devastating collapse of emotional fortitude. When a minor inconvenience occurs, the average man breaks down. He complains, he spirals into depression, and he lets external chaos dictate his internal peace. He has become a fragile leaf blowing in the wind, completely at the mercy of his environment. This is exactly why your negative thinking feels so overwhelming today. You have been systematically taught to react instead of command. You have been conditioned to absorb the panic of the masses instead of standing like a pillar of solid stone amidst the storm. But the modern application of Stoicism offers a powerful way out. It provides an elite, impenetrable framework to disconnect from the noise and build a fortress inside your own mind. It is time to stop playing the victim to your own thoughts. It is time to step into your true masculine power and establish the strict laws that will dictate your reality from this exact moment forward. The first law is the law of absolute separation. Most men are completely consumed by the chaotic world around them. They let the traffic, the global economy, the disrespect of a stranger, or the failures of their distant past permanently dictate their mood. But you must understand a fundamental reality. There is a massive, impenetrable wall between you and the outside world. Your negative thinking does not actually come from the event itself. It comes entirely from your flawed judgment of the event. Imagine standing inside a massive stone fortress. Outside, a violent storm is raging. The wind is howling, the freezing rain is pouring down, and the lightning is violently striking the ground. A weak man stands outside in the deep mud, screaming at the storm, begging it to stop. He is cold, wet, angry, and utterly miserable. A strong man sits inside his fortress, watching the exact same storm through a reinforced glass window. The storm is identical, but his experience is entirely different. Why? Because he has separated himself from what he cannot control. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He knows that his internal state is his own sovereign property. He does not rent out space in his mind to people or events that do not deserve to be there. You must start drawing a hard line right now. what is yours and what is not yours. Your thoughts are yours. The economy is not. Your actions are yours. The opinions of others are not. When you master this absolute separation, your negative thoughts instantly lose their fuel. They starve and die on the spot. But drawing this strict boundary line is only the beginning of your complete mental transformation. The reason your negative thinking persists day after day is because you keep trying to control the uncontrollable. You obsess over the outcome of a job interview. You worry endlessly about whether someone will text you back. You lie awake at 3 a.m, dreading the possibility of an economic collapse or a societal breakdown. This is entirely wasted energy. It is a massive leak in your mental fuel tank. To destroy negative thinking entirely, you must forcefully redirect your attention back to your own hands. Think of your mind as a highly concentrated laser beam. Right now, your laser is scattered, pointing at a million different things you cannot possibly influence. This makes the beam weak, diffused, and completely useless. But when you pull all of that precious energy back and focus it entirely on your own actions, your own daily discipline, and your own deliberate choices, that laser becomes powerful enough to cut through solid steel. You stop asking, "What if she rejects me?" Instead, you ask, "How can I build the strongest, most resilient version of myself today?" You stop asking, "What if I lose my job?" Instead, you ask, "What rare and highly valuable skills can I master right now that make me completely irreplaceable in any market?" This aggressive shift in perspective is the ultimate weapon against modern anxiety. Anxiety simply cannot survive in a mind that is strictly focused on immediate, present action. It is a parasite that only feeds on those who live in an imagined, terrifying future. By enforcing this first law of absolute separation, you banish the parasite permanently. You reclaim your lost territory. Do not confuse this emotional separation with simple apathy. You are not becoming cold, robotic, or dangerously detached from reality. You are becoming mentally untouchable. When you stop caring about the thousands of things outside your control, you suddenly have an overwhelming abundance of energy to invest in the few things that actually matter. You become a significantly sharper tool, a vastly more dangerous competitor in the marketplace, a more grounded and stoic presence for your family. Your negative thinking is simply a symptom of a mind that has wandered far outside its legal jurisdiction. Bring it back home immediately. Lock the heavy gates. Once you have established this impenetrable fortress of separation, you must prepare for the exact next step. Because even inside the fortress, your mind will attempt to betray you. It will try to attach false value to things that do not matter. This brings us directly to the second principle of elite mental dominance. The second law is the law of perceived value. Let us look at a brutally honest truth. Absolutely nothing in this physical world has any inherent value except the exact value you choose to assign to it. A luxury vehicle is just a piece of metal and plastic rolling on rubber tires. A rejection from a job or a woman is just a temporary configuration of events in a vast, indifferent universe. Yet modern men completely destroy their own peace of mind over these trivial things every single day. Why does this happen? Because they have entirely surrendered their power of valuation. They have inflated the worth of these external objects and opinions until they become giant, terrifying monsters, casting dark shadows over their daily lives. You must realize that you are the one inflating the monster. You are holding the pump in your own two hands, and you possess the absolute authority to let the air out whenever you choose. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He rigorously audits his values. He looks at everything that causes him pain, anxiety, or anger, and he aggressively strips away the illusion. He completely refuses to let a weak society dictate the price tag of his internal peace of mind. Think of a man who is absolutely terrified of a public speaking event. He has convinced himself that the opinions of the audience in that room are a literal matter of life and death. He sweats profusely, his heart races out of his chest, and his mind goes entirely blank with panic. Now, imagine if he truly, deeply believed that the audience's opinion was completely worthless. Would he panic? Of course not. The fear only exists because he freely handed over immense, unearned value to the judgment of complete strangers. You are doing the exact same thing every single day of your life. You are valuing the opinions of people you do not even deeply respect. You are valuing the outcome of situations you cannot possibly control. You are handing over heavy gold coins of your mental energy to buy absolute garbage. To destroy your negative thinking, you must forcefully devalue the things that constantly stress you out. When a thought tells you that a temporary failure is the end of the world, you must genuinely laugh at it. You must look at the failure, strip away the intense emotion, and see it for what it truly is. A simple data point. A brief lesson. Nothing more. And certainly nothing worth losing your composure over. By actively deciding that these external pressures hold zero real weight, you instantly dismantle the anxiety they produce. You reclaim your emotional independence. Implementing this crucial law requires a daily, ruthless audit of your mind. Every single time you feel a sudden spike of negativity, anger, or deep frustration, you must pause and ask yourself a simple, piercing question. Why do I care about this? Who exactly told me this was important? In almost every single case, you will quickly realize that you inherited this specific anxiety from someone else. You adopted a weak, fragile frame of reality without even noticing it. It is time to overwrite that corrupt code permanently. Demote the external pressures, lower their rank in your mental hierarchy. Elevate your own character, your own unwavering integrity, and your own disciplined actions to the absolute top of the list. When your own self-respect becomes the only thing you truly value, the chaotic noise of the outside world suddenly goes entirely quiet. The negative thoughts completely lose their grip because the things they threaten no longer matter to you in the slightest. You become practically bulletproof. But understanding value is only the intellectual side of the battle. You must also ruthlessly train the physical reaction of your mind to unexpected stress. This brings us directly to the third law of mental dominance, the law of the emotional anchor. A law that will teach you how to remain completely unshakable when the world attempts to throw you entirely off balance. The third law is the law of the emotional anchor. We live in a dark ocean of pure, unfiltered chaos. Every single day, unexpected waves will crash into you. A major project will fail. Someone will disrespect you directly to your face. A massive financial setback will hit you entirely out of nowhere. A weak man is exactly like a tiny wooden boat without a heavy anchor. The moment the wave hits, he is tossed violently into the air. He is entirely at the mercy of the raging water. His emotions spike. He yells, he panics, he makes incredibly irrational decisions, and he permanently damages his own reputation. He allows the external event to bypass his logic completely and hack directly into his nervous system. But an elite, strong man operates on a completely different frequency. He is not a fragile boat on the water. He is the massive, immovable stone mountain rising powerfully from the depths of the ocean. The wave still crashes into him, the water still hits the stone, but the mountain does not move a single inch. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He has developed an unbreakable emotional anchor. He understands that the ultimate display of masculine power is not aggressive reactivity, but terrifying, unshakable calmness. He knows that whoever controls his emotions controls his reality, and he refuses to hand that remote control over to anyone else. How exactly do you build this massive emotional anchor? It all comes down to mastering the gap between every single stimulus that happens to you and your ultimate reaction to that stimulus. There is a gap in time. For the weak, impulsive man, that gap does not exist. The stimulus and the reaction are tied together by a short, explosive wire. Someone insults him, and instantly he attacks back, losing his temper and his frame. But for the elite man, that gap is deliberately stretched out. It is wide. It is a quiet, expansive space where true freedom and power actually live. When the direct insult comes, he does not react. He absorbs the information. He takes a deep, slow breath, and he observes the situation from high above. In that deliberate, powerful pause, the negative emotion is completely suffocated. By refusing to react instantly, you strictly deny the negative thought the vital oxygen it needs to ignite into a raging fire. You forcefully command your rational brain to take the steering wheel away from your fragile, emotional brain. This simple practice of the strategic pause will save you from thousands of regrets over your lifetime. It will make you appear incredibly powerful to everyone around you, because true power is always unhurried and entirely deliberate. The next time chaos strikes, do absolutely nothing. Stand entirely still. Let the silence do the heavy lifting while your mind calculates the most dominant and effective move. Mastering this heavy anchor means completely outgrowing the pathetic mindset of a reactive, emotional boy and stepping fully into the grounded, solid reality of a mature man. You must fully embrace the fact that your deep calmness is your ultimate weapon. When insecure people try to provoke you, they are secretly looking for desperate validation. They want to see that they have the immense power to alter your emotional state. When you drop your heavy anchor, look them directly in the eyes and offer absolutely zero emotional reaction. You completely destroy their perceived power. You effortlessly reflect their chaos back at them, while you remain entirely undisturbed. This practice completely drains the life out of negative thinking, because you prove to yourself, over and over again, that nothing can move you without your explicit, conscious permission. You become the ultimate, immovable object. However, simply resisting chaos when it arrives at your doorstep is not enough to forge an elite mind. To truly destroy negative thinking forever and build impenetrable mental armor, you must learn to actively seek out intense adversity. You must not simply wait for the storm to arrive. You must walk directly into it. This introduces the profound fourth law, the law of voluntary friction. The fourth law is the law of voluntary friction. We currently exist in the softest, most dangerously comfortable period in human history. Absolutely everything is perfectly designed to be effortless. Hot food is delivered to your door in mere minutes. Mindless entertainment is instantly streamed to a glowing screen in your pocket. The temperature of your room is controlled by turning a simple dial. This absolute lack of friction is secretly destroying the modern man. Total comfort is the greatest enemy of mental toughness. When a man's life becomes entirely frictionless, his mind becomes incredibly fragile. Because he never experiences real physical struggle, his bored brain starts inventing fake, imaginary struggles to worry about. This is the exact root cause of overwhelming modern anxiety. The masculine mind requires a difficult challenge, and if you do not strictly provide it with a real one, it will turn inward and start violently attacking itself with negative thoughts. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He aggressively injects voluntary friction into his daily routine. He completely refuses to let the soft world make him weak. He understands that pure peace of mind is not found on a comfortable couch. Peace of mind is earned through blood and sweat on the battlefield of self-imposed discipline. By choosing to suffer voluntarily, you remind your primitive brain that you are a warrior, instantly silencing the meaningless whispers of everyday anxiety. How do you systematically apply this law of friction? You must actively find ways to routinely make yourself physically and mentally uncomfortable on purpose. You wake up 2 full hours earlier than you need to, while the rest of the lazy world is deeply asleep. You subject your body to freezing cold water first thing in the morning, forcing your mind to conquer the intense, screaming desire to step out. You lift heavy weights until your muscles scream for absolute mercy, actively teaching your brain that you can push far past the illusion of physical exhaustion. You practice strategic fasting, completely denying your primal urge for food simply to prove that your iron will is vastly stronger than your appetite. When you regularly engage in these brutal acts of voluntary suffering, something magical happens to your negative thoughts. They suddenly feel incredibly small and entirely pathetic. When you have just forced yourself to endure a grueling, painful physical challenge, the anxiety about an awkward social interaction or a slightly stressful email completely evaporates into thin air. Your mind rapidly recalibrates. It learns the real difference between a true, tangible challenge and a fake, manufactured worry. You establish a heavy baseline of toughness that makes daily annoyances completely irrelevant. This daily, deliberate inoculation against chaos builds a thick layer of titanium armor around your entire consciousness. When you actively choose to do incredibly hard things, you send a powerful, undeniable signal deep into your subconscious mind. You are declaring, I am resilient. I am highly capable. I can endure massive amounts of pain. Negative thinking only thrives on deep self-doubt and a lingering feeling of powerlessness. But you cannot possibly feel powerless when you are consistently conquering your own glaring weaknesses every single morning before the sun even comes up. Voluntary friction acts as a massive, system-wide reset button for your entire nervous system. It completely burns away the thick fog of overthinking and leaves behind a crystal-clear, predatory focus. So stop running away from difficult tasks. Stop taking the pathetic path of least resistance. Start actively hunting for deep discomfort. Embrace the heavy friction and watch your mental weakness turn to ash. But as you build this immense resilience, you must be extremely careful about how you communicate your struggles to the outside world. Because your spoken words have the terrifying power to either reinforce your strength or completely unravel it in seconds. This leads us perfectly to the 5th law of elite mental control. The law of silent endurance, a principle so rare in today's society that simply practicing it will instantly place you in the top tier of masculine authority. The fifth law is the law of silent endurance. We live in a society deeply suffering from a massive disease of constant oversharing. Everyone is completely obsessed with aggressively broadcasting their pain, their minor trauma, and their daily grievances to anyone who will listen. The modern world falsely believes that complaining is a legitimate form of healing. It is absolutely not. Complaining is an incredibly toxic poison. Every single time you vocalize a negative thought, every time you whine about how unfair your current situation is, you are giving that toxic thought physical form. You are directly feeding it blood and oxygen. You are reinforcing the pathetic identity of a victim deep within your own mind. A weak man constantly seeks validation for his suffering. He desperately wants others to feel sorry for him, hoping that their pity will somehow make the heavy burden lighter. It never does. It only makes him substantially weaker. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He processes his pain entirely in complete silence. He does not burden his close friends, his family, or his followers with his petty, useless complaints. He deeply understands that his words actively dictate his reality, and he absolutely refuses to speak the language of defeat. He knows that silence is a heavy container that holds immense power, while complaining is a massive hole that leaks his masculine energy straight into the dirt. When you strictly practice silent endurance, you forcefully force your mind to become incredibly resourceful. Because you completely refuse to outsource your frustration by whining to someone else, you are forced to actually step up and solve the problem yourself. You seamlessly transition from a passive, annoying complainer into an active, dangerous architect of solutions. Imagine a massive, heavy weight being placed squarely on your shoulders. If you immediately scream loudly and beg for help, your own muscles never have the chance to grow. But if you close your mouth tightly, square your broad shoulders, and bear the crushing weight in absolute silence, you build an immense, terrifying physical and mental strength. This does not mean you never seek wise counsel or highly strategic advice from proven mentors. It simply means you completely eliminate the useless, childish habit of emotional venting. When a massive setback occurs, keep your mouth completely shut. Do not rush to tell the sad story. Let the burning anger and intense frustration sit heavily inside you, and then convert that dark, potent energy into massive, productive action. Let your undeniable results speak entirely for themselves. By keeping your severe struggles extremely private, you completely starve the negative thoughts of the attention they desperately crave. They wither away in the darkness because you refuse to give them a voice in the physical world. Your silence becomes your absolute ultimate shield. Do not ever mistake this deep silence for unhealthy emotional repression. You are not cowardly hiding from your feelings, you are simply refusing to let them publicly humiliate you. You are safely containing the roaring fire within the iron furnace where it can generate massive heat and forward power, rather than carelessly letting it burn your entire house down to the ground. This profound, silent endurance earns you unparalleled, massive respect from the people immediately around you. When others slowly realize that you quietly carry incredibly heavy burdens without ever uttering a single word of complaint, they will look at you with deep awe. You rapidly become a powerful symbol of absolute stability in a wildly chaotic world. But far more importantly, you earn the deepest, most authentic respect from yourself. You look in the mirror and you see a formidable man who cannot be broken. A man who digests pure pain and aggressively turns it into unstoppable progress. This high level of self-respect is the ultimate, undeniable antidote to negative thinking. A man who respects himself deeply simply does not entertain pathetic thoughts of worthlessness. Once you have fully mastered your voice and your silence, you must master your perception of time. You must learn exactly where to deploy your intense focus to avoid the hidden traps of the mind. This introduces the highly strategic sixth law, the law of present command. The sixth law is the law of present command. The vast majority of your negative thinking does not actually exist in the present moment at all. Think about it deeply right now. When you are suffering mentally, where exactly is your mind? It is either agonizing over a past that you absolutely cannot change, or it is utterly terrified of a future that has not even happened yet. Depression is the haunting ghost of the past. Anxiety is the terrifying phantom of the future. Both are complete, total illusions. A weak man spends his entire life time-traveling uselessly inside his own head. He relives his old, painful failures on a continuous, endless loop. And he writes horrifying fictional movies about his impending future, playing the helpless victim in every single scene. He completely abandons the only place where he actually has any tangible power: the present second. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He violently forces his mind to stay anchored in the tactical present. He fully recognizes that the past is a permanently closed book, and the future is an entirely unwritten page. He anchors his entire consciousness into the exact, singular task directly in front of his face, executing it with absolute, ruthless precision. He knows that winning the current second is the only logical way to guarantee a victorious future, completely starving his anxiety of its temporal fuel. To deeply master present command, you must develop incredibly strict grounding techniques. Whenever you feel your mind rapidly spiraling into the dark abyss of hypothetical scenarios, you must immediately pull the heavy emergency brake. Bring your wandering attention forcefully back to your immediate physical reality. Deeply feel the solid ground beneath your boots. Feel the rough texture of the object sitting in your hand. Focus entirely on the slow, deliberate rhythm of your own breathing. Ask yourself a highly logical, piercing question. In this exact second, right here, right now, am I actually okay? The honest answer is almost always yes. In this exact second, there is absolutely no crisis. The crisis only exists as a fictional story in your imagination. By bringing your intense awareness forcefully back to the right now, you sharply cut the invisible cords of anxiety. You force your mind to stop fighting imaginary dragons and deal strictly with the physical reality of the room you are standing in. This requires immense daily discipline. Your brain will constantly try to wander back into the dark corridors of the future, desperately looking for new things to worry about. You must relentlessly train it like a highly loyal guard dog. Every single time it wanders off, you forcefully command it to come exactly back to your side. You leash your attention and command it to sit exactly where you need it, dominating the moment with unblinking focus and absolute clarity. This intense, aggressive tunnel vision on immediate execution completely eliminates the mental space required for negative thinking to grow. When you are fully absorbed in doing truly exceptional work, lifting extremely heavy iron, or having a deep, highly focused conversation, there is absolutely zero bandwidth left in your brain for useless anxiety. Massive action is the absolute ultimate cure for overthinking. You must fully realize the brutal illusion of time. You never actually experience the future. When the future finally arrives, it will simply be exactly another present moment. Therefore, preparing for the future by deeply worrying about it is a complete mathematical fallacy. The only real effective preparation is building maximum, undeniable strength right now. Command the absolute present. Master the single inch of reality directly in front of your face. Conquer today entirely, and let tomorrow fight its own distant battles. But mastering the present moment requires one final overarching principle to aggressively lock it all into place. A principle so heavy and demanding that only the absolute elite are willing to carry it. This is the massive foundation upon which all authentic masculine power is built. This is the seventh and absolute final law. The law of ultimate ownership. The seventh law is the law of ultimate ownership. This is by far the most difficult law to accept, but it is the master key that entirely unlocks absolute mental freedom. Most average men live their entire lives comfortably playing the role of the professional victim. They loudly blame their genetics, their parents, the massive economy, the corrupt government, their difficult boss, and their toxic ex-partners for their deeply negative state of mind. They always have a perfectly crafted excuse ready to deploy. They falsely believe that their misery is completely justified because of what someone else maliciously did to them. This exact mindset is a terminal disease. As long as you blame external factors for your internal state, you will remain entirely powerless. You willingly hand the keys to your mind over to your enemies. Here is what separates a strong man from the rest. He takes extreme, radical, absolute, ultimate ownership of absolutely everything in his entire life. He looks squarely in the mirror and says, "My negative mental state is my fault. My poor financial situation is my fault. My lack of physical fitness is my fault. If my life is not exactly where I want it to be, it is 100% my responsibility to fix it, and absolutely no one is coming to save me." He completely eradicates the word fair from his vocabulary, fully understanding that the universe does not care about fairness. It only intensely respects strength and massive action. Taking absolute ultimate ownership does not mean every bad thing that happens to you is entirely your fault. Someone might violently crash into your car at an intersection. That is clearly not your fault. But exactly how you react to it, how you calmly handle the insurance, how you strictly manage your rising anger, that is entirely your heavy responsibility. Your traumatic past may not be your fault, but aggressively healing from it, building a massively powerful future despite it, and absolutely refusing to let it turn you into a weak, bitter man, is your absolute responsibility. When you fully adopt this extreme mindset of ultimate ownership, a profound, permanent psychological shift occurs. The incredibly heavy burden of responsibility instantly transforms into unimaginable, terrifying power. If you are entirely responsible for everything, that mathematically means you have the power to change everything. Your negative thoughts completely disappear because there is no longer any mental room for weak excuses or pathetic self-pity. You become an absolutely unstoppable force of nature. A man who looks at a highly chaotic, completely unfair world, smiles grimly and says, I absolutely accept the challenge. You deeply integrate these 7 laws. You completely separate your mind from the noise. You strictly control your values. You drop your heavy anchor. You embrace the intense friction. You endure in absolute silence. You entirely command the present. And you absolutely own it all. You have just been handed the exact, highly guarded blueprints to build an absolutely unbreakable mind. These 7 laws are not mere suggestions. They are the required elite operating system for any man who truly wishes to rise to the absolute top of the hierarchy and achieve true intellectual dominance. If you apply even a fraction of what you have learned today, your negative thinking will not just slowly decrease, it will be entirely and permanently eradicated. Your anxiety will completely starve. Your fear will be aggressively replaced by a terrifying, unstoppable calm. I want to thank you deeply for proving that you belong to the incredibly rare 1% of men who possess the massive attention span and the strict discipline to consume this entire hour-long masterclass. You are already miles ahead of the massive sleeping crowd. Now, the real, brutal work begins. Take these 7 laws, step powerfully out into the absolute chaos of the real world, and ruthlessly test your new mental armor. Do not forget to subscribe and actively join this elite brotherhood of men who are actively forging their own massively powerful reality. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, which of these 7 laws will you permanently enforce in your life starting today?